once again.
Hello again, it's another cold day, and we've done a previous video on Vauxhall Zafira where we've come for power loss, and while we've done diagnostics on that, we noticed the alternator was only kicking out around 13.1 and it was dropping to 12 volts and even 11.8 at some points. So here today we've returned to fit a new alternator, and the code that we got the last time was P0621 generator lamp L control circuit malfunction, and that's the code there if you can read it, P0621, and it was a -02. So we're going to have a look at checking the cables and replacing the alternator if necessary. 1.9CDTi Zafira B 2008, and here's the engine bay, and we'll get this cover off and show you underneath. So it's this 1.9CDTi engine, and it's got an intermittent battery light coming on, and the car is shaking and losing power. Now the alternator is down the back down there, so we may need to access that to do some testing, but we're going to test the battery and we're going to test the leads and connections. So here we're inside and we're going to start it up. See if we're getting any battery warnings. So there's nothing currently coming up. And we've still not got any battery light on, but as you can see from our multimeter out there, getting about 12.8 to 13.1 volts, so it's way under. And it's even dropping down even more as it's idling here. And we're going to use a set of jumper cables here to put a new temporary earth and possibly a new temporary live if we can reach it. The alternator on this engine is a bit hidden, so it might be difficult for us to do that. So we're going to attach an earth cable onto the negative terminal of the battery. We're going to attach the other end to a metal point on the engine, which would be here. I'm going to see if that improves. Just move our cable, make sure we've got a tight connection. So that hasn't made a big difference, so we're going to start removing the scuttle panel along here and the wipers to get down to access the alternator. So if you could see on our reader there, we're now dropping down to around 11 volts. So it's gradually, the battery is gradually losing more power. So we've just put the bonnet back down so we can access the wiper bolt here. I'm just going to open these. So you've got the bolt out right on about this section here. You're going to press down, just like this, till you feel it wiggle, like that. Once you've got it wiggling, you can just pull it off. You don't really need any pullers. That trick usually works every time for me. We're onto the second side, and same again, up and down until it wiggles a bit, and remove. Now we can come along and take off of these clips here. A few of them gone along. once they're off, you should just be able to lift this section. Just lift it up. And underneath you'll have your washer jets. So we can just disconnect those from here. It just pulls off that way. Once you pull that off, then you can remove this section. Now we've got some 10mm bolts going around the section here all the way over to the passenger side. So we're just going to remove all of those. Once you've got those 4 bolts out, there and there, this section should just come apart. Something holding it here. Let's have a look. So, just remove this for a minute. There you go. Let's lift it off. So it was just this little piece of plastic that sits in here that was holding it. With all of that out of the way, you'll have a bit of better access to the back side of the alternator down there. It looks like we're going to have to disconnect this fuel filter to get access down there. It's in the way. And it looks like we've got a pipe here and a pipe here with a hose clip on it, so we're going to have to remove those. We've just got some pliers here. We're just going to clip down the clamps on both sides and pull the hose out. That's out. So what we've done is just pressed those 2 clips from each side, and now we can remove that pipe. Just put it over there somewhere. Now we've got this one. Now we've got that hose clip open, and we've just used our same pliers again. It's just some hose clip pliers. Get this off. Undo our plug. And now we've got some bolts around here to get undone. Or as we've removed those pipes, I'm going to hopefully just undo these 3 13mm bolts at the top here and move the complete casing over to one side if we can. We're going to try that. So we've got the housing unbolted, but it's not possible to move it because this hose here is holding it, so we're going to need to take this top off. And we're using one of these sockets. It's an E10. Both of those bolts are out. We can get the top off and remove this hose here. Just down the side of the filter here, you've got a 10mm bolt holding a couple of sensors on. Just leaving that bolt up there, and we can disconnect the sensors. Let's just try and put those over to the side. Now hopefully this should just lift out of the way. And there we go, we've just got that over to the side there. And now we can get a little bit of access down here to the back end. And if we need to get the alternator out, it's going to come out through this section right here. So what I've done here is put a live cable down to the alternator there onto the 13mm bolt there. So we're going to put this fuel filter back and then restart the car and see what happens from there. The only reason I'm doing this before changing the alternator is because it's quite a common problem on these for the live cable or the earth cable to corrode and just not give a good connection anymore. So before we change the alternator and go through all of that hassle for nothing, would rather just try this first. If this doesn't work, then we've done all this for nothing. But it's better just to try it first. Okay, so that cable hasn't worked, so we're going to just replace the alternator. And we didn't waste too much time putting the cable on. All we had to do was reconnect the fuel filter again, which only took a few minutes. So we're happy to go ahead and change the alternator now. I'm going to remove the airbox, so I've just taken out this T30 torque bolt from here. Disconnect the airflow sensor and the 7mm here. Then we can just remove that. And I'm hoping I can just reach the tensioner from here rather than going under the car. And we've got our socket on the tensioner there, and if we pull towards us like that, it's releasing the belt. So we're going to pull that off by hand. Now the belt's off, I've just tucked it down there. So we've got a bolt here, and around the other side we've got these two bolts here. So we don't need to remove the two of these, we only need to remove one. It can be either one, and we just need to loosen, say, the top one a little bit, and then remove the bottom one fully, so that'll let this extension plate swivel, and then you can swivel it up out the way and get the alternator out. And the socket you need is an, here you go, E18. So it's one of these torque bolts, E18. Sorry, the camera's not focusing there. That's that bolt out from down there. And just gonna tuck that belt around just to keep it from falling off. Try and keep it steady down there. And we're gonna use our electric ratchet to get down on here and just get onto these. That one's loose. Now we can see the alternator moving there, it's ready to fall. So I've just put my left hand under here to hold the alternator and pull that bolt out. And here it is, big old long one. That's what she said. And now we've got the alternator down here. We just need to grab hold of it and wiggle its way out. Simple as that. And here we've got both alternators. Here's our replacement. We're just obviously going to match them up. Make sure that the plug here, 2-pin, and you see these little plastic lines, just make sure they're the same, so you're not going to have problems after fitting it. And the bolts are in the same place. Now we're going to just slip our new alternator back down. And I'm just going to put both bolts in to hold the alternator in place. Now that's in. Just there, we've got our bolts in, so they just need to be tightened up. And the cables, live 13mm cable, put back on, and the rest. Then we can put back our fuel filter here. So here we've just put back on the fuel lines, this one, and this one, and our plug here. So the fuel filter is back in place, and we've reconnected the battery and reconnected the belt there on the tensioner. Reconnect the airbox and the airflow sensor and these pipes. Now before we fit the rest of this, we're going to start the car up and test the alternator. So that's good, all working. It's getting up around close to 14 volts there. So you've pretty much seen how it's all come apart. It's going to go back exactly the same. So we're pretty much at the end there, but if you want to carry on watching, we can put it back together on film. First we put this big section, just putting it back in place. Show the grommets are down in place. And we've got our bolts, 10mm. Two on that side and two on the driver's side. Here goes over the motor, just sits there. These two pieces. This one is the passenger side. Is that the passenger side? Yep. There. Just along the window here you got a little groove where they clip, they just push down in. The same on this side. Here runs along engine cover, goes back in this direction, just pushes down. Put our clips back on. Our cable here. Piece of the scuttle we need to find. That's the end. There it is. End of our washer hose. Back on there. And again, top line clips in on the window frame. Push down. Should be a rubber seal that runs along here. There isn't one. Put our wiper arms back on. Remove our tester. Close the bonnet. Now we can get our bolts back on to our wiper arms. So back in place, and we've got our little caps here. Go back on. And just make sure you test your wiper arms after you fitted them. If they're not aligned correctly, then they will catch or rub. The engine's running there, we're keeping an eye on the voltage just to make sure that it is staying up around 14 volts there. Now the job's all finished. And we're just packing up our tools, and it's the end of this one. See you later.